Greetings and welcome, everyone. Thank you for taking your time out to join me today. Very important mission at hand and a lot to cover. But I would trust that you would be able to set some time aside for me to pass some information on to you that is very critical in this moment because of what we currently face here in a compound. And it is a sad thing, to be honest, that having gone through what we've gone through, having suffered what we've suffered through as a people, we still find ourselves behind the eight ball, not for lack of leadership, at least not this time. The challenge is that the wedge that has been put between the people on this land has been so great. Our minds have been conquered for so long. We've yet to realize or awaken from the current spell that we're under. Now, in history, it has shown us that many who have came forward and fought for righteousness, who have stood up for the right things, who have given their lives and sacrificed so much for the rights of people, for the freedom of people, and for the dignity of people. Why do we always wait till we lose these people to honor them, to respect the work that they do and the sacrifices they make? Why do we sing about redemption songs? Why do we sing about revolution? Why do we sing about freedom? Why do we talk about justice, rights, and yet we're not prepared to stand up for it? Now, a lot of times we end up hearing one side of a story and we then embed ourselves in that information, not knowing if it's factual, not knowing the sources and the grounds as which it's coming from, what are the motivations, and who are the key players. So, I know many would have seen and recognized what would have been happening in the last few weeks in a compound. Right? So we want to bring to light from the side of the council and myself as chief the happenings in a compound and the impact of what has transpired in the last couple of weeks. Now I'm going to walk through my community with you and share with you just visuals of what's happening here on the ground as we go to the destination that I will share with you some key information that I'd want for you to take down, make note of, since it's of no use to the external authorities, and since they believe that I am the one who's the provocateur and I am the one who's instigating problems. And when they do come here, they don't come here under the complaints of the stress, duress, and coercion that we, the people, face from previous leadership and their affiliates. I am going to set the record straight today. I am going to put it in your faces today. And I want for you to take that information, to share it, to spread it around the world, because I'm going to show you why in Jamaica crime remains a problem, and why in Jamaica, until we make the cognitive decisions to impact crime at its ground level, at the community level, we have demonstrated for years how we have kept and maintained peace in our community. Good morning, Auntie Cans. How are you? I'm just sharing with my viewers what's going on in the community and how we feel. So I'm just walking through and telling you hi and giving you opportunity to say hi to everyone.
Hi to everyone who listen to you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Well, I'm keeping the conversation going, everybody. We've taken the liberties of sharing a lot of this information externally, and it has been of no use, apparently. And as I would say, good morning there. The problem that we face now in this are not willing to take the decisions and make the necessary actions or make the necessary decisions to correctly address crime. And crime starts at the community level. And if we're not fixing our communities and clearing the dirt that exists in our communities, then it will continue to prevail. I've been in office for about 18 months, a year and a half, right? When I came into office, I found out that, there was so much that was happening here in Maroon business. And I myself made it a point of duty to try and understand. This was about maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And I attended a few meetings that had to do with cockpit country, demarcation, and, concerns around mining in cockpit country. And, I started paying more attention just for the sake of my late Uncle Melville, who was a warrior for Maroons and for the cockpit country. And God rest his soul. But what he has done and what he did, he laid the foundation for my understandings today. In first, understanding our treaty. Second, in understanding the land, being able to identify and describe it. But then to sit and watch others determine where our borders fit and where our borders lie. That was not an issue until we had, it was an issue up until 2013 when we, the Maroon Council, were a part of a stakeholder group. It was called the Cockpit Country Stakeholder Group. And that entity was a part of a massive exercise which included government agencies, University of the West Indies, and other professional entities. This mission was to identify what in today's language is cockpit country. Now, I'm going to come back to that. The challenge is, morning, bro. Morning. The challenge is, a lot of what was being discussed and aligned on would have been considered the voices of the parties, the stakeholders from within cockpit country. Now, the Maroons have a very, very, good morning, a very significant claim as it relates to cockpit country. Why is this? Cockpit country is a designated land protected by treaty under 1738 that was signed with the 1738 Peace and Friendship Treaty that was signed with the British. Now, this treaty remains in force as per Clause 4 of the Jamaican Constitution, which says all existing laws prior to the notice of this order in council 1962 remains in force. It also said that the only way we part from this agreement is if both parties to that agreement agree to walk away from it. Now, the Maroons have had this republic. Let me not say republic. The Maroons. Okay. The Maroons were recognized for their resilience, for their fight against slavery, for their fight against any oppression. It didn't matter who you were. It didn't matter your color of your skin. What mattered was the mentality of freedom. That's what set apart the people that were identified as Maroons. So when you look at the Maroons and what they embody, the Maroons embody a mixture of cultures, a mixture of people, a mixture of identities that would have once been classified otherwise, but came to be known as the Maroons. Now, if we were to return to truth and to who we are as roots, then one would understand the depths at which we operate and the significance of this territory and jurisdiction to other external parties. So, blessings, brother. Okay, morning, Uncle. Yeah, Uncle, I want to talk to you later now. Yeah. All right. Yeah, let's take it up. Later we talk. Cool. Now, this is a compound, people. Very peaceful community. Look around. Right? This is my community. A compound has sat on some of the most pristine, untouched lands in Jamaica. Many of you out there who are on social media with a lot of what has been spewing around, the negativity, the backlash, the criticism, right? The victimization, have not even come here, have not even spoke to the good people here, have not been here to understand what's been going on. Well, today I'm going to give you full enlightenment, because guess what? When life is in danger and when life is at threat, the people will do what they need to do to protect that. That's what the Maroons were known for. And we've resisted injustices for so long. Since coming here, I've committed myself to making better the relationship that existed with government. Because quite frankly, the informal one that existed wasn't suiting us. This building you see here behind me will become a matter of great interest. And I will explain that as I go along. Please, look at it. Because the players involved are part and party to this that we're experiencing today. Now, I will express the significant factors that have transpired in the last 2 weeks. I mentioned coming into power and recognizing what was transpiring in a compound and in the affairs of its people. Because quite frankly, coming in, there were no documents handed over. Let me not say that. I got 2 expired contracts from the previous colonel, right? The contract for the telecommunication poles that are being rented in the community. I received, they were both expired by the way. I received 1 bank book, which had 1 account listed in there, a JMD account. It had 2,400 Jamaican dollars in it, right? He told me he had nothing else to hand over to me. I got one of the stamps, one of our administrative stamps, which says the sovereign state of a compound. And the other one I received later after was the Full Maroon Council stamp. These stamps have been in existence for quite some time. Now, since coming into office and recognizing that there's very little to go off of, we engage in a serious audit. An audit of the books of the community, an audit in the state accounts, and an audit of individuals who are affiliated with the state. Now please, grab your pen and paper and take notes, right? Because we'll be going through a lot today. Miss Delcy, how you doing? All right? Huh? What you say?
Keep the faith.
Keep the faith.
I know what all niggas about you. Do your work.
Thank you, ma'am.
Because they cannot stop you.
Thank you,
God
ma'am.
have your back.
Thank you, ma'am.
And no matter where them are planning, tell them mash up.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anybody where they on Facebook or post, tell them where them are nasty.
Defamation.
Bring the girl that we start a cuss you on Facebook. Tell her to come in and maroon down. And the whole of we have our fun.
Love your cuz. Love your cuz. Yeah, man. Come on. Don't bother with me. You know what's going on. I see Rex feeling it. How you do? How you do, Mass Wilbert? All is well? Later I come talk to you, alright? Alright. Sorry, everybody. Just going through my community. So, just so you know, I'm being very open today because you know what? As I say, if the external authorities have no reason or use for the information I have, then I am now prepared to share it with you all. I'm working with all these files and I'm going to open them and share them with you today because this foolishness must stop. This foolishness must stop. Now, as I said, we have detected irregularities coming into office, right? And one of the challenges we faced was trying to understand the players who were here with us in the prior administration, who was here for almost 11 years. We almost didn't have an election, by the way. The political ombudsman had to be called in to intervene in several issues prior to the election, which was constitutionally due in 2020. Now, it didn't happen until February 18, 2021. So, the good people of this Maroon village demanded change. They asked for change. They asked for tangible change, not joke change. Where's Sir Robert?
Legal action anytime soon.
This was what they chose. They chose this for leadership. They chose change. They chose a new agreement, a new way of operating as Maroons, right? Time changes. And so, we have to now take control of the things that affect us and the things that impact our lives as indigenous people. Why? Because the hands that would appear to serve us aren't actually serving us. As a matter of fact, the positioning has been more discriminatory than anything else. Now, this building you see behind me was listed as the central solar bank of a compound. A groundbreaking ceremony which took place here, I believe it was in 2017 or 2018, right? This building was earmarked for a town hall, meaning it would house the offices of the chief, it would house the administration, meaning the council, the full Maroon Council, and would conduct any other state or community business here in this building. It was later informed, mind you, this groundbreaking was witnessed by Justice of the Peace and a minister of the church here in a compound and members of the community. This ground that we're standing on is a former burial ground. So that too was of much contention when it was being built in the community. Please hold this for me. Now, let me explain to you what was happening here. We started asking questions. What were the plans for the operations of this bank? And who were the players? Now, the bank was supposedly where, you may or may not know, currency that was developed by the name of Lumi. That was put out. You'd have seen it. You'd have heard about it. It's still there. It's doing what it needs to be doing. It's doing what it's doing. And the main player, guy by the name of, well, formerly known as Timothy McPherson, right, who was a main player and an affiliate of former Colonel Williams. When we came and started asking questions regarding the operations of Lumi, the structure that is now being put up, and the relationship to the community, we could not get any information. Several letters have been written by the council to Mr. Williams and others from the community who have challenged what the operations of this entity is supposed to be. So very soon after, Mr. Williams and Mr. McPherson had a disagreement. I'm not privy to what the disagreement stemmed from or why there was a disagreement, but I know they fell apart. Mr. McPherson went away for some time, and then we came right up to an election to which the office of the chief then transitioned. Now, in more investigations coming in, I found a bank account that was not disclosed to me by former Colonel Williams. Actually, I found 3 additional bank accounts that were not disclosed to me by former Colonel Williams. When we went in and examined one specific account that was created under the existing entity, a Compound Development Foundation, which was established from 2005, prior to Mr. Williams, a US dollar account was identified under the name of Ferron Williams and Timothy McPherson. Through that account, between the period, I'm going to show you this building. Very, very nice. It was built. It's been locked up for over a year and a half since I've taken office. I've deliberately not come into this building for the sake of facilitating an investigation, which I would have hoped. Look, you can see, it's very dirty. It's been locked up. We came in and did some cleaning the other day, but the investigation has since not begun, having made reports to relevant authorities to the findings. In this US dollar account, my beloved people, approximately $1 million transitioned through this state account between 2017 and 2019. Note, this account was not disclosed to the community. It was not opened in accordance with the protocols established for the operation of state accounts. When we found this account, we then encountered a significant amount of pressure from former Colonel Williams and threats at the time, which we chose not to substantiate, but left it nevertheless for what it was, a threat and intimidation tactic. Nevertheless, close to $1 million passed through our state account. And when asked about this account, Mr. Williams denied any knowledge of this account or existence of any such account. As I would have told you, Mr. McPherson has been nowhere to be found for the last 2 years. Now, I will show you a Compound Development Foundation Limited 2005 USD savings. I will show you transactions that are coming in. 111,000. These are now all withdrawals taking place, right? 272,000 coming in. All transactions coming out, right? Periodically we saw these large sums of money coming in, and then money's going out, right? And they were only being withdrawn by 2 persons. Here we go again, 65,000 coming in, 45,000 coming in, 70,000 coming in, right? 54,000 coming in, right? And all these transactions happening immediately after the money comes in, another 30,000 coming in, right? 27,000 coming in, 20,000 coming in. Look at the dates, February, March, 70,000. And I know when you go to the bank or when you go to any institution to try and draw on your own savings, you have to provide certain amounts of information, correct? Okay, it's called due diligence and KYC procedures and anti-money laundering procedures and regulations. I was in the banking system. I worked in it for over 4 years. I'm very aware of what is going on here. This information was shared to the police officers in Magati, St. Elizabeth, who have, for the last couple of weeks now, refused to take any statements from any person within the compound community. However, when it is convenient and when a call is made regarding threats or so-called threats from persons within the community who they think are aligned to me, then we have passes rolling into a compound. This is my life, and this is what we the people are facing. So, I see people saying I should hold steady. Don't worry, all this information will come. I'm just giving you a glance right now. Another 27,000 coming in, right? 70,000 coming in, right? I'm just going to keep going, right? There are names of people in this community on this bank account, right? I've explained the pressures of some of the people in the community have been putting on us, right? 60,000 again coming in. Just look at all those negatives. And by the way, the other colonels on the windward side of the island who are a part of what they call the Maroon Secretariat. The Maroon Secretariat is also involved here because this scheme also involved them. So again, this is the involvement of a very precise web of what I would assume to be very questionable transactions that we the people, and a matter of fact, I presented this to my community in a town hall meeting, so the community is well aware of what has been happening with this account that was not disclosed to us, right? So Mr. Williams and Mr. McPherson have a lot of questions that they need to answer. Now, having realized that we're not getting the necessary response from the external authorities, mind you, after making that report in last year, I think it was July, to the Magati police, they advised that I take it a step further and go to MOCA, which is a major organized crime unit task force in the island. I did so. I made contact with MOCA. I made contact with the colonels there. I went to Kingston. I went to the 7th, 8th floor on NCB Towers. I sat with them for 2.5 hours and went through everything that I just showed to you. Now, if you think the story loud, or if you think the story bad yet, let me give you some more. Upon investigation, we came across the documents, the entity documents for the Central Solar Reserve Bank of a compound, which is what the entity that was supposed to be here was called. We found the structure of the agreement to which the state owned 50% of the entity. 40% was being held in a holding company controlled by Mr. McPherson himself for so-called Maroons externally. Another 10% was being withheld for a potential investor to which no one had the idea this investor was. When we went into the depths of the files and looking at where the transactions were coming from, one of the accounts was an entity, one of the deposits, well, several of the deposits came from an entity that originated in St. Lucia, right? And that entity, right, is what we suspect would have been the shadow for many other illicit players in this game and this charade that the Maroon people have had to suffer with for the last 2.5 years. We found out that this entity that we're looking at here and the structure of it involved a man by the name of Jan Marszalek. You can go look him up. He was listed as the world's most wanted man in 2020, July 2020. We have records of people witnessing him coming here in a compound. Mr. Marszalek is still unlocated. His means of moving about have been recognized as single-use planes, which he used that everything that was supposed to happen here. We had another single-use plane that crashed out in the ocean somewhere out there, right? Okay, I'm just going to leave that there. Now, since bringing all this information, and since JANMARSALECK, right? Now, I'm going to share with you. This fight is not about sovereignty, and this is bigger than that, people. This is way bigger than that. And the people that are involved, I've really tried to do this a diplomatic way. I've really tried to do this the correct way. I'm saying to you, the Maroon people are looking for an agreement that suits them. We do not want separation. We're not trying to divide the country. What we're trying to do is protect what truly belongs to us, because we see that there's a web of people conspiring to take away not only our lands, but to mine them, to also rid the people of their dignity. We are being celebrated for so much, but look, we have no water, we have no infrastructure, nothing is here to facilitate the people living in dignity. Yet, $1 million passed under our noses and nobody knew. I brought this to light and I've since come under several attacks. Now, there are other players, people, because we have email trails of Mr. Marszalek, Mr. Williams, Mr. McPherson, and others who you would not dare think would be on that email trail. It must end. Now, recent incident in a compound, which happened 2 weeks ago. Let me say this and say this clearly. Every chief that comes here spends here 5 years. And in that 5 years, charted and held accountable for what he would have promised the people and what he would have held, what he would have brought, what he would have bring to the people, right? We have come out of the hole, the trenches, right? If this election had gone differently, you could write off anything that you would consider a legacy of the Maroons, right? We would be eventually what we've been played down to be, a cultural component of society, when we are the culture of the land. I have been here 1.5 years, and I've faced 1.5 years of struggle, of fight, of relentless oppression by small few. But a small few who's been empowered, who are being financed by not only local entities, but international entities who are looking at our land, who are looking at our minerals. And it's not only bauxite, people. There's lithium here, there's silica here, right? Let's talk the real things now, right? It's not no bauxite, right? There's a booming industry in electronic vehicles, right? Watch the media. Watch what is happening, right? There's a proposed Silicon Valley of type in Jamaica. Great, great. But how will it be backward integrated? What mechanisms are being put in place to facilitate the supply chain for that industry? Mr. Williams has been constantly liaisoning with people in the community. I showed you that building around there just now. Belongs to an ex-convict by the name of Dennis Foster, who now resides in the US. He's on probation for a 7-year sentence. Mr. Basra has been financed by Mr. Foster. And when I came into office, I must say, Mr. Foster was a good friend of my dad. My dad passed away via car accident in 1987. By then, Mr. Foster would have migrated, would have made his life overseas, and would have been caught up, right, in illicit trade, a cocaine, right? After being arrested and charged and on probation at his home with his kids, he was again arrested for the same thing. This man, right, is now reaching out to us. When we came in, reached out to administration, positioned himself as emperor of a compound. Mr. Dennis Foster, right, affiliates of a compound news. I will only say this once, right? And if we did not give them a place in our administration, then they would wage war against us, right? I'm going to talk the things, right? Because Mr. Basra himself, who was a candidate against me in the last election, right, didn't even get nominated on the day, right? I offered Dane, along with 4 other opponents in that election, a position in my council. I gave them an opportunity to serve. Even many with blemishes, I gave them an opportunity to redeem themselves. Many of them walked away on me. They walked over me. They turned their backs on me, right? I gave Mr. Basra the opportunity to represent on the Abeng radio. We have a radio station here, Abeng radio, right? He loves the media. He loves attention. He didn't want that. He wants Secretary of State. Dennis Foster from America wanted to be my deputy. We were being held ransom by these guys who claim him and another member of the community have the original treaty involved under blood oath. So I'm going to put this out there, and I'm going to let you hear and see for yourself, right, what we've been going through. Mr. Basra, 3 weeks ago, I had an investor here who came to help us with water. They've committed to help us with funding. Mr. Basra injected himself, found the corner to then infiltrate the mind and poison the mind of these people. The lady came to me crying. She doesn't know what happened and why this guy's telling all these things about me. I said, what happened? She explained everything that happened, that he was telling me that we're liars and we're criminals and we're holding people against their will here and all sorts of foolishness. This has now been picked up by 6, 7 different bloggers and media houses out there who are spewing my name in this negativity. I watched a video the other day with a young lady sending a serious threat to me. Respect to you. But the will of the people will not be shunned, not by anyone, even if you're in here as a Maroon. The people spoke. The people chose different. They chose growth. They chose somebody who felt their pain, who felt their sufferings. And they'll not roll over for that. Not for you, Mr. Williams, not for your external government affiliations, not for your bad men and your threats that you try to pull on the people here. It won't work. You're an ex-police officer. You should conduct yourself with such dignity. Because there are many law enforcement officers out there who are working hard to maintain what little dignity is left in recognition of the police force. 90% of the island just the other day expressed their disapproval with how crime is being controlled in this land and managed. But if we sit back, I presented this information to the relevant authorities, and we're still feeling the pressures of the forces here who are now trying to make me look like I'm holding my people hostage, like me look I'm trying to change what Maroonage is, to let me look like I'm acting against the will of the people. Any action that Chief Currie takes is the action of the full Maroon Council. We have a body government. So everything that I say and everything that we do is protected by the voice of the people. So let me continue in saying, having brought this information forward, we still have not had any action. We accessed the building last Friday, and having access to the building Friday, Mr. Williams had since issued a threat, allegedly, that people should not go near this building and anyone who comes near it will face significant consequences. I received a call last week outlining the devious plans that would have been set ahead of this week in an effort to create harm to myself and members of this hard-working community. We had put that out. We've made the report to the relevant authorities. The day that we were told that the planned attack would take place, our gate was removed. Yes, it was removed, and we suspect it's by members internally who are still affiliated to former Colonel Williams. We reported this, and guess what happened? The police came here on that night, and they came here. You saw the video I put out. I sent it to the Superintendent of Police of Black River. I sent it to the Sergeant Silo. I sent it to the Sergeant Magati. And when I put that video up, and when I sent the information out, that night, 2 units came into a compound, again, without notification. And what they came here for was alleged threats. Listen to these people. Alleged threats being made by people affiliated with Chief Currie to members of this community. You know, listen to me. When I asked the officer, are you aware I've been in touch with the superintendent since day? Are you aware I've been sharing information on what? He said, no, he hasn't spoken to him and he's not really aware. He's not here for that. He's not here for that. Then what are you here for, officer? The Eagle man them where I get threat. The Eagle man them where I get threat. One of the officers issued a threat upon exiting a compound that wait till him catch one of them down a Santa. Right? Let me say this again, people. The police officer who came here on the information that people around me are issuing threats to persons, having put out the information, credible information. I have voice notes. I have people. I have the information. I'm not going to put it out here. I'm saying to you, if there are people out there who want to know more, I'm talking the media, I'm talking well-thinking minded individuals, come to a compound and I will share these with you. All the bloggers out there who want to blog and talk, you have no mission in life. You have no mission in life. There are good bloggers there, please, don't get me wrong. But I'm talking the ones who have their affiliations, who have their political motivations. You cannot harm me, because what is ordained cannot be stopped. The fact of the matter is, these people are hell-bent with their affiliates, including one external party, a man by the name of Dave Reed, who I know now, from what I understand, has gone off making claims that he was held against his will here in a compound. People, Mr. Reed came here under the guise of being a direct contact with the mining company. He's telling us that there's money there for us and that we deserve development. We wanted to understand what Mr. Reed was getting at and what he was proposing to us, because it seemed as if what he wanted to do was to continue an arrangement that was already in play before we got here. Mr. Reed came here. We met with Mr. Reed because the dinner that Mr. Reed planned had other intentions behind it. There was an entity that he registered in the United States that he made no one in a compound or my administration aware of. He wanted to take pictures. He wanted my signature. And his mission, which he already had up on our website, was to go off and engage with international entities on behalf of the Maroons. We have now found out Mr. Reed is an affiliate of the government. We have connections and we have resources and we do use them. There are many good people out there who want to see good for the Maroons and have offered themselves in service to help us. So when I talk on behalf of those as well who are watching. When we say the world is watching, the world is watching. I've given a statement to the police in Black River. I've given a statement to Mocha in Kingston a year ago. Oh, and let me not forget Jamaica. After making that report to MOCA, I believe it was August of last year, 2 months later, Mr. Williams was awarded Order of Distinction by the Governor General. So let me remind you, we are standing, looking at an entity that was built with the facilities of monies we suspect have come from illicit means, which involves the world's most wanted man who visited here in a compound via private helicopter. This hurts. I'm going to show you something, people. Right? I'm going to open my file empty, right? I'm going to show you something. Stark is not about sovereignty, it's not about nothing, right? But since we're trying to discredit this good administration and the good people who are working behind it, this is the entity which the bank account was established under, right? A Compound Development Foundation Limited, 2005. This is the company's document which shows, you know, articles and how it was created, etc., etc. It shows the different people who were on it. It also shows the schedule and the objectives for which this association is established. Long-term sustainable development of a compound maroon village, especially as it relates to formulation of a 20-year development action plan, right? There's some of the things that's there, right? We talk about argument of maroon sovereignty and all these things. Let's not sidetrack the argument and the conversation, all right? Because there's a workable agreement that can be arrived at without the dialogue and the focus on sovereignty, right? Because they seem to use that to spread their own rhetoric as to what it is we're trying to achieve and what the mission and objective here is. Look at this document here, coming from Tax Administration of Jamaica. It says, sovereign state of a compound. Attention, sovereign state of a compound. There's your TRN number, right? So we have an entity that was registered. You go out there and try to register another entity with the name sovereign and you see what happens, right? This is the name that the bus that was given to us in 2019 by Minister Grange was registered under, the sovereign state of a compound, all right? So, I say this to say that. Gentlemen, bless up. I say this to say that we, the people, choose differently. The systems that have been put in place to address the indigenous people of the land do not serve us. We live in a land that highlights the efforts and works of indigenous people. Rastas have been recognized to a particular extent, but they still suffer today. We still suffer today. I have been libeled. I've been slandered against on the many things that people really have absolutely no understanding to the depths as to which we have had to go to preserve what we have left. I walked away from a perfectly good job and a comfortable life to come here to be more comfortable, to live a more fulfilling life, because I found my destiny. It was a calling. It was no motivation for no money. There's no money here when I came here. What I knew was going on was some, I don't even want to say the word, people, but I'm going to tell you, it did not serve us. We have witnessed where for the last 10 or 11 years there's been no accountability in this community. No accountability to its books, its people, nothing. The hands externally have manipulated their ways. I'm not focusing on all of this because we know what has been happening. My mission has always been dialogue, dialogue, dialogue. Where do we cut the foolishness and get to fruitful dialogue? It has never come. The last 2 weeks has been instrumental because, one, we again made another concerted effort to reach out I did a speech on Independence Day. And really, you know, I envisioned that at this point, you know, having seen where the Prime Minister met with members of the Maroon Culture Group in Black River and expressed his own considerations as to the relationship that existed here, and even went on to say he's committing to come here for January 6th celebration next year. Now, we would have engaged with persons very close to the PM to try and have dialogue since then. And all that I'm hearing is that whenever my name comes up, he goes in a very dark place. Now, I'm saying, I don't have a personal issue with the Prime Minister. What I have is a problem with the relationship that exists. And then on top of that, the force at which the resentment to this request has come. Again, with all due respect, Prime Minister Honest, I have a fiduciary duty to the people, the Maroon people, who elected and chose me, chose my council, my members, my body government, to represent their will. And if there are people in this community who continue to act on the motivations of external hands and ex-criminals, right, who use their money to fund these illicit structures which is unfinished, right, and people here serving them in front of the people, that are fed to them. What good is living a life that is below the potential and the will to which it should be? We are dignified people. When the officers came, somebody asked, let me finish that story, right? The officers came and we expressed to them what was happening, the incident with Basil. Let me clear that up, right? Because of what happened when he turned away the investor, she came to me crying, literally crying. She has nothing to do with here. She's not from here. She didn't come here for this. She didn't want to expose her funders to this. This doesn't make sense for her. You know, at that point, it was very difficult because then I had to lower myself into outlining the dirt that exists here in our community, which we rather not share. But like Mr. Basra, he will go on the Facebook, YouTube, whatever, and he'll air everything he feels he needs to air, so long as it has the ability to bring this administration down. He would have been warned on several occasions, publicly, right in the square where we have our town hall meetings, right by that light post where you see that little shop there, right? We'd have pulled him there twice in town hall meetings to address him and his outbursts, right? We would have spoken to him individually, right? Personally. Mr. Badra sees me, walks, he passes. If he walks and he passes me, come and he talks. But if he has a problem, or if he feels that there's something else that's there to be said, his medium of getting a note is a challenge to all the Maroon people. We would have seen him in years gone by, being very disrespectful, right? Not only to law enforcement, but also to the Prime Minister. Certainly not to the levels to which what is being said and spread around my own engagements with the Prime Minister. Mr. Basra was issued a letter on behalf of the full Maroon Council, which is traditional when we have issues within our communities. These are the structures that we use to support justice within our communities. That is why we've been so safe. When troublemakers are allowed to sit and fester, spread false information, and they bring nothing good to the people nor the community, I will not be here for another 3.5 years to try and prove to the people why investors aren't coming to a compound or why we can't get things done in a compound. Mr. Basra was issued his orders. He doesn't live here. He's been catching in that unfinished building for the last 3.5, 4 years. Mr. Basra has scammed many people of their money here in a compound. Mr. Basra kicked his pregnant spouse and fled to a compound years ago. So when you all are out there jumping on the backs of someone who you think have the interest of Maroon people at heart, you are wrong. He's a politically motivated individual who falls under the auspices of Dennis Foster, Ferran Williams, and others externally keen on overthrowing and shaking up my administration. We have a court date, September 30. And we've identified that as a timeline. So the pressure has been cranked up. And I want for you to pay attention. The Maroons of Trelawney Town, Cockpit Country, will stand to defend their life, liberty, and property until justice comes to the people. We will not be denied. 84 years of war, 84 years of blood, and yet we still suffer today. We still suffer today. That the said Captain Kojo and the rest of his captains, adherents, and men shall forever, hereafter, in a perfect state of freedom and liberty, excepting those who would have been taken or fled to them within 2 years of last past, if such are willing to return to their said masters and owners with full pardon and indemnity from their said masters or owners for what is past, provided always that if they are not willing to return, they shall remain in subjection to Captain Kojo and in friendship with us, according to the form and tenure of this treaty. The Maroons freed people. We did not return people. Those taken would have been those taken from the plantations when we raided. Many chose to go back. Many chose to go back. That if any Negro shall hereafter run away from their masters or owners, fall into Kojo's hands, they shall immediately be sent back to the chief magistrate of the next parish where they are taken, and those that bring to them are to be satisfied for their trouble as the legislature shall appoint. Why are we returning to their said masters here? And why are we returning to a chief magistrate here? A chief magistrate is a judge. These are criminals. If a criminal comes into the state and we catch them, we carry them back to the next parish. We're there to face the magistrate. That all Negroes taken